Hi everybody, this is Tanishka and this is my report for the full moon that we are now approaching in Pisces. So, I laugh because I've been feeling the energies. I don't know about you, but Pisces is the final sign in the zodiac wheel, all right? So this is a huge time for endings, for acknowledging what needs to end, okay? What we've learnt from things that have ended. This is a time to review our past and to review the impact that our past has had on us. Why? Well, Pisces is the sign of karma. Now, karma is simply the universal law of cause and effect. All right, so this is how we learn. We learn through observing the effects of our words, of our choices, of our actions, or of not saying something perhaps when, there was an opportunity, or not taking action when it was called for. So we're really now experiencing the fallout. Okay, so that for some may be a wonderful harvest, but because life is about continual learning, in this cyclic journey that we're all on, for many this may be a very challenging time. So I'm just going to refer to my notes. The full moon is going to be falling on September 14 for those that are on the progressive side of the dateline, and September 13 for those who, are later. Now, ordinarily, full moon is a time when it's the zenith of the feminine, okay? So it's when we feel things so acutely that whatever is true for us as a soul on the inner planes of existence, because the moon governs the inner self, it governs the soul, the inner child, what's happening within us. And so full moon is when that really comes to the fore, that we can't ignore what our soul needs to express. Now, this is especially so because this coming week, because Pisces is a water sign. It's not just a water sign, but it is the final of the 3 water signs, okay? So we have Cancer, then Scorpio, then Pisces, okay? So Pisces is the most sensitive of all the water signs. I often marvel at how people who incarnate with a lot of Pisces in their chart manage to even withstand being here in a realm where we have so much density, so much unconscious behavior, so much pain. So, we're all going to be feeling it this week. Now, Pisces represents the collective, okay? So being the final lesson in our journey around the astrological mandala, the wheel of fate, the zodiac, this is where we really get a sense of how everything we do and say impacts and is part of the collective karma, all right? So for many people, myself included, this is when we're going to be feeling the pain of the world, okay? The collective grief, the collective trauma. So there have been many mystics that became enlightened through grief. So if grief surfaces for you, do not repress it, or you will become depressed, okay? Instead, this is an invitation to allow yourself to be eclipsed by the power of water. This is a wonderful time to visit waterfalls, you'll find these are portals in the Earth Mother that cleanse our heart, okay? Just as the force of the water is rushing out of the earth, yeah? If we allow it, if we allow ourselves to be empathically open and be one with that element of water, it brings up any pain that has not been released so that we can be washed clean, that our heart can be purified through the cleansing of our sacred waters, our sacred tears. So, you know, we have grown up with any sign of emotion in our patriarchal world being seen as a sign of weakness and something that could be potentially exploited and used against us. So there is often a fear of letting that social mask fall and letting ourselves completely dissolve and being seen transparently in our acute vulnerability. Okay. However, this is how we will heal the world soul. The ancient mystics referred to our world soul as the Anima Mundi. And it's on the understanding that everything is interconnected. My pain is your pain. My sister's pain is also my brother's pain. Yeah, it's not a competition to see who has been hurt the most. Yeah, who is the bigger victim? This is shadow Pisces, okay? So when we grieve, for it to be clean grief, okay, we need to open our heart and cry for the collective, okay, so that we can keep our heart open. We can stay embracing of the journey of life, of love, okay? Because what happens if we are not open in our heart to feeling it all? Because the heart governs the feeling function, the feeling body, which is that green subtle layer, okay, within our 7 bodies that comprise our soul, all right? Each chakra or energy center governing one of these layers, okay, that comprise our multifaceted soul, which is the wholeness and totality of who we are. If the heart is shut down, if we are not available to really feeling everything, for fear of the intensity eclipsing us, we are not able to experience the ultimate gift of life, which is life having meaning, okay? So if we want our life to really have meaning, we have to risk feeling everything, and that's what takes true courage, all right? So if we're not prepared to do that, we armor up psychically, and we have a brittle shell, a defensiveness. We respond more likely with aggression, pointing the finger, blaming, shaming others, which just telegraphs that our own wound is still unhealed. And we are looking for vengeance. We are looking to bring others to justice. And this is to come from the mind. This creates more division, more separation, more wounding. The only way through is through the storm and through feeling, okay, the lightning, the rage of those cumulonimbus storm clouds, and allowing the torrential grief to flow. Will we be changed? Will we be cleansed and purified so that we are crystal clear and able to receive the mystical insights of Pisces? Pisces is the wise woman archetype. This can be in a man or a woman, okay? Yoda, Merlin, these were men that embodied the wise woman mystic, that is the archetypal energy of the goddess Hecate, as she was known to the Greeks, Hel, Hel, as she was known to the Norse, Caredwin, as she was known to the Celts. She has many other names. I'm sorry, I don't know them all, but it is the same archetypal energy. She who stands at the crossroads and who reviews the past, the present, and the future. How our past has impacted us in the future. How our present has been impacted by our past. And only by reviewing all of this can we be truly responsible for what we are seeding, what we are creating. Because the crone, the elder woman, the mystic, her gift, her pearls of wisdom are the seeds, like pomegranates, that she scatters forth her seeds of wisdom, so that from this legacy we can find a path through to create new life. And if we think about, you know, allowing ourselves to feel, allowing ourselves to grieve, when are we in the most lush places on the planet? The rainforests, the jungles. It's where we have the most rain. Yeah? Where I live here in Ubud, the word Ubud means medicine. It is a jungle environment. And it has had less rain than it has had in the last 3 years. We have a drought in Australia. You know, we had soaring temperatures. We need to cry as a collective. We are one with the Gaia consciousness. So if we want it to rain, we don't need to do a rain dance. We need to feel. We need to open up our empathic heart, and we need to grieve the cost of patriarchy, okay, which has not served men any better than it has served women. Everybody has equally suffered. But if we are to birth ourselves into the next chapter, into the Aquarian age, into a time of shared power, yeah, of people power, not hierarchical, top-down power and control, but a co-created reality of feminine, masculine coming together within and in all levels of the macrocosm to create from a place of love, then we must do the work of healing, and that is grieving, that is feeling everything we haven't been felt, that hasn't been felt. So the kundalini of the earth, the bioelectricity of the earth is rising. This is the serpentine energy that is known as Shakti, the goddess, and she is waking up. So we are hearing women speaking up. We are hearing men who are awakening the feminine, the soul presence within themselves, speaking out and saying, hey, we have a right to express our vulnerability too. Yeah. So the rage that we saw in the feminist era and in the civil rights era, yeah, of the late 60s and early 70s is now giving way to this next wave of healing. And it will only happen through us putting down our armor, putting down our expectation of having to take a side in the war, and seeing who we perceived as our enemy through the eyes of compassion. Now, I hear people speak about how hard it is to be an empath in the world. We are all empaths. When the heart is open, we are empathic. It is a sign of evolution to have awakened one's empathic heart. I speak about this in my book, Creating Sacred Union Within, if you want more info about that. It is through empathy that we can feel the suffering of another. We can feel their joy when we lie with them in the act of lovemaking and together experience true communion. It is through the empathic heart that we can experience sisterly love and brotherly love. And it is through the empathic heart that we can have compassion for the perpetrators who have inflicted our greatest core wounds. So, as the moon waxes to full in Pisces, if you want to access pearls of wisdom that are going to guide you through the next 12 months, this is an invitation to feel whatever sadness is surfacing within you, okay? Because with the sun and a stellium of planets currently in Virgo, the opposite sign, which is about healing, we see the connection between, if we're not feeling, we're not healing, and we're creating dis-ease on all levels: mental health, emotional health, obviously, physical health, and energetic health, our nervous system, yeah? So when we have a good release, a good cleansing cry, it soothes, it cools the anxiety, the kundalini, which is heat. And the anxiety, or rather what I'm trying to say, kundalini, I spoke about how this is rising in all of us, okay? Particularly those of us who have been initiated into feminine wisdom, okay? Those who have been initiated into opening up the codes of the Grail, of the ancient wisdom teachings of the feminine. This will intensify what you feel. It will be like being in a crucible, okay? It is an act of purification when we express all of our emotion, okay? So this is an act of power, even though it may feel powerless or disempowered. This is the path to experiencing true inner power. It is through being truly authentic and allowing the authentic expression of the soul. Now, here's another gift in it. For this full moon that we are approaching, we have 7 planets in Earth signs. Now, that's 7 out of 10 planets. So that's a very large majority. The Earth signs, when we've got a lot going on in Earth, you think about Earth, that is clay, yeah, or concrete. We can feel stuck, yeah, we can feel stubborn, feel like we can't move on from a situation. We tend to calcify. Now, with this beautiful full moon in Pisces, it is the liberator. It is allowing us to become unstuck, yeah? So that instead of having our feet in concrete, it becomes mud, okay? So we've got to get messy, yeah? If we want to find our way out of the old limiting structures, okay? We've got to allow the tears to flow if we want to get unstuck. So to help us, we have 7 planets in mutable signs. Mutable is the quality of movement, of flexibility, of change, adaptability. So this is a time when we can move free of what limited us from healing as a collective as well as personally in the past. Now, to help with that, we have Saturn, the planet of, well, let's just say it, patriarchy, okay, ruler of Capricorn. And that's not to diss the Capricorns amongst us. I have moon in Capricorn. But Capricorn is about structures, conservatism, rules and regulations, tradition, the past. It is the father, opposite Cancer, the mother, all right? Now we have Saturn within 2 degrees of the source of the south node this full moon. The south node, the nodal axis, represents our collective past lives, our collective past experience. And so Saturn is asking us to look at the cost of our father, okay, and his impact on our lives, and on the collective way of fathering and how that's impacted us societally. So what have we had as a father figure? We've had Zeus. Okay, we've had the distant sky father who was punishing, who exacted, punishment on his children, rather than the restorative justice of Cernunnos, the green man, who was a heart-centered father, the archetype of the father we had before patriarchy, and who is returning. I'm writing about this in the book that I'm writing currently on the Grail, the ancient religion before the Empire of Rome took over and outlawed our ancient cyclic religion. So what this means is that many of us will be confronted with the pain that we experienced as young children growing up and then continued to reenact in our own lives as young adults, in parenting our own children, in midlife and in our elder years, the legacy of the Dark Father, which is a man whose heart is shut down, a man who does not have the capacity to love because he did not dare to feel his pain, okay, and acknowledge the cost of his pain so that through that he could father with an open heart. Now, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I had dear friends of mine staying with me, and they, were encouraging me to get a sublet, a piece of land here so that I could pay, live here for 25 years in Bali where my heart is happy, and pay the same amount that I would pay in 3 years of paying to a landlord. And I have an inherited amount of money from my grandmother that my father has in his name in a bank account. And so we went to my father. I said, look, I'm going to need some help. You guys know all the deal about building permits and all of that sort of thing, so you'll be able to speak his language. And what they've met, they were just in a state of shock. This is a man who thought Hitler was great, who thinks Trump is great. He's very right-wing, very fear-based, and, very derogatory towards me. And my friends came away in shock, going, oh my God, there is no changing that man's mind. And, because of his racism, he was not going to free up what is rightfully mine. So, it was painful, it was challenging, but it was so validating. It was the first time somebody outside had seen and witnessed the relationship that I have had with my father my whole life, putting me down and seeing me through his eyes, which is only through criticism, because he does not understand the feminine. He does not value the traits and the characteristics of the feminine within himself, so he can't honor them within somebody else. And because that's what I'm about, because that's I'm like the grain of sand in his life as he is in mine to help us to grow as souls, I'm his greatest challenge as he is mine. And I'm sure this will, be true for many of you, because this has been a pandemic, being raised by the Dark Father, which is what Darth Vader means. And we are here to bring forth a new mythology, one that heals the wounds inflicted by the Dark Father. So we have to acknowledge, Houston, the problem in order to then move through it and beyond it. So we have Mercury and Venus in the final degrees of Virgo. This is the planet of communication and the planet of love. So we're communicating the cost, the impact emotionally that we've endured through scrutinizing and identifying specific moments in relationship that were so painful because it was this, Capricornian dismissing of the feminine, of our feeling function of the heart. So Fortunately, we have Saturn trine the sun in Virgo this full moon. So a trine is a very harmonious aspect, okay? It's like, you know, a triangle. And so whatever we shift now through really having a hard look at that Saturnian, where there has been limits and challenges in our life because of this oppressive paternal influence, the changes we're making as a result now will be far-reaching, okay? Because Saturn is very much about the long term. So it's not all doom and gloom, all right? We actually have Jupiter, the planet of expansion, squaring Neptune exactly on the equinox, which is the marriage point, which we experience twice a year as the spring and the autumn equinox. And this is an opportunity to heal polar opposites within ourselves and externally in our relationships. So this is bringing through, you know, our motivation to expand into our ideal heart-centered dreams, holding a new vision for ourselves and acting accordingly, like the Fool in the Tarot. I find it so significant that they're building next door, restructuring as I'm restructuring how I work. And I dare say many of you are, as we have this stellium of planets in Virgo, so that we can work together in a more holistic, integrated and organized way. That is the gift of the sun and all of our personal planets in Virgo right now. I also just want to speak a little bit more about the influence of this Piscean full moon. So it is bringing up everything that's sat in the subconscious, okay? That's kind of like opening Pandora's box. So it can bring up our fears. It can bring up the areas that we feel really disempowered, okay? Remember I gave you the example speaking about my first, you know, foray into possibly getting a piece of land and putting a roof over my head where I'm not at the mercy of a landlord or someone telling me, hey, you can, you know, be homeless at the drop of a hat, which has been a theme in my life because I haven't had that secure sense of foundations and home. And so we're being asked this full moon to face the area of our life where there is deep vulnerability, okay? There is deep disempowerment. And the challenge is to face the fear, okay? Because just like a kid with a boogeyman, it's more scary if we can feel this kind of energy in the room when the light's out or under the bed or in our nightmares, but we're not able to turn and face it. When we turn and face it, then we can deal with it. Then we can get help. Just as my dear friends who are eco-builders, you know, and mortgage brokers helping me to activate the good father within myself to provide a structure that can provide and protect for me. And I've also been gifted this in my business with a wonderful female mentor who's showing me how to restructure. So, you know, whilst there may be the dissolution of, you know, structures as we come to this full moon, you know, because Pisces will bring to an end anything that is not workable, okay? Anything that no longer serves us. So when we acknowledge the ending, then the new foundations can be laid. But if we don't acknowledge the ending, we stay in a holding pattern, okay? Now, I also want to share something else personal from my life in the hope that it speaks to your experience. Just come with me as the power tools sound in the background. And that is the gift in daring to allow ourselves to be torn asunder by grief, to go to the absolute depths of the underworld, to the darkness, to face that terrified, wounded child, okay, is that only then can we access the altered states of rapture, of oneness with all of existence, with oneness with the world soul, the global family, okay? And I will give you an example. So last Sunday, I was at kirtan. Kirtan is a devotional chanting practice where through the cyclic repetition of singing in Sanskrit the names of the ascended gods and goddesses, the universal archetypes that reside within on the planes of existence that govern the chakras, we spiral up into ecstatic states of oneness to embody those. So there I am, experiencing myself as the universal goddess in my light body, sitting on my big lotus flower. And my intention that I stated within my own psyche before we started the practice was that I wanted to feel embraced by the God. And this was because I had spent the day writing and catharsing the personal pain that I had experienced in personal relationship with the masculine. And so I was feeling really bereft. I was feeling really low. And so I set this intention as a prayer to feel the love of the universal masculine to help me in my grief, to help me out of that state of separation so I could be wholeheartedly in my heart. And sure enough, when we ask, we receive. And I experienced Sheba in a chant to Sheba, who is the face of the God, who is the God of death, the God of acknowledging that we need to experience endings, okay? If on the wheel we are to have birth, we are to have beginnings. And he morphed into Krishna. Krishna is the sustainer, or actually no, the God of new beginnings. Vishnu is the preserver, the sustainer. So, but Krishna is often seen as blue, like a Smurf or an avatar being, but blue because we think about a flame. The very hottest tip of the flame is blue. This is the plasma, and this is what we are becoming, okay? Through the awakening of that kundalini, that inner soul fire, we are refining our resonance. We are becoming more high frequency beings, and we are becoming more that omnipresent state of love, okay? So if you feel blue, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So he comes to me and he embraces me, and I'm feeling him kissing my neck, stroking me with peacock feathers. He has the white bull with him, which represents the healed masculine. So instead of, you know, the wounded moon bull who is raging like the Minotaur, he is like Ferdinand, yeah, the bull who loves rather than fights. And you know, and then we morph and we're traveling along the Ganges on an elephant together. And then he lays me down in a huge love heart of petals. And I'm having this mystical experience of rapture. You know, I'm orgasming as I'm chanting, and my voice is going, you know, into sort of chromatic notes that ordinarily, if I was striving from my mind, I wouldn't be able to reach. But it's because all my nadis, all my chakras are open. My yantra, my harmonium is being played by the divine, by the song of the divine. And we're all experiencing this in oneness in this practice. And so I cannot be, what would you say? I cannot resent that then, however many days later, I get put through yesterday, a day where I just cried all day, yeah? I had acupuncture, 1 point here in the third eye, 1 point in the crown. This is after that experience with my father. I just happened to have an acupuncture appointment, a massage appointment, you know, to support me, because the divine benevolent universe knew, I didn't know, that I was going to need that extra support on that day. I had friends of over 20 years here helping me, holding me. So, you know, we are on a magical mystery journey, and we are being initiated constantly by the cycles, bringing up all that needs to be seen, all that needs to be felt. But the payoff we get is to know ourselves as divine, is to know there is no separation, that God or the gods are not separate. We are them. They are within us. They are inhabiting us if we dare to fully open and surrender to a state of oneness. So I hope that that is inspiration. I hope that that is, you know, helps you to journey and navigate this next week in experiencing these energies as they initiate us. So I love you all, and you have my blessing to share this however you feel and with whomever you feel. All right, blessings. If you want to subscribe, you can go to my YouTube channel and you will get a notification every time I upload a video. All right, blessings for now. Ciao.